over the years, I've gotten a lot of questions about my Buzzrolls. So I want to go ahead and share some of the things that I've done to develop those. In almost every masterclass, clinic, and first lesson I've ever done, I get this question. And there's basically 5 things that I've worked on to develop my Buzzrolls, so I would like to share those with you now. The first thing that I've worked on to develop the Buzzroll is this exercise that I do that goes from triples to doubles to singles. And I'm gonna do this at about 120, and I'm gonna do it with the metronome. I suggest that you use the metronome as well. We'll start it at 120 just to show you what the idea is, and then I'm gonna break it down, get a little slower, and show you how to build these triples. So to get to that point, you want to start at a slower tempo and build up from there. So right now, we're going to start at 60 BPM. So you want to concentrate on playing these pronounced, play each stroke, play it firm and with some power, and you want to get everything clean and even. Don't worry too much about picking it up and making it fast yet. So once you get comfortable at 60 BPM, then we can start increasing the tempo. You may want to only increase the tempo 2 BPM until you get a little bit more comfortable with it. But right now, we're going to jump it up to 70 BPM. Now 80. Now at 90 BPM, I'll start to add in the doubles and the singles as well. Then we're going to do a double paradiddle at the end to throw us over to the left hand. I'm also going to add the quarter notes on the bass drum and 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. Now 100. Now 110. Now 120. Now for kicks, I'm going to push it up to 130. Now let's see if I can do it at 140. The second thing I work on is to play super crushed Buzzrolls at 88 beats per minute, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then you're going to gradually elongate that until you're aiming for a seamless Buzzroll. And that's going to be a challenge because the hands are going to be pulsing pretty slow to go for a seamless Buzzroll. But we're going to aim for that. So we're going to start super crushed, gradually elongate, go for seamless, and then come all the way back through the spectrum. And this is going to help you be able to control how you phrase your Buzzrolls. third thing we're gonna do is to add accents to this. So we can do this to Hey Pocky Way, and we're gonna slow this down to 83 beats per minute because Hey Pocky Way is at 83. So you can play with a feel that's in between straight and swing. We're gonna add the mambo bass drum pattern, and we're gonna start super crushed and then gradually elongate and come all the way back through that spectrum. This fourth thing is a power exercise, and it's not very musical, but you need to do this to be able to develop the power that you're gonna need to support the volume levels that you might have to play at, let's say at an outdoor festival. So once I started playing outdoor festivals, I realized I needed to develop a lot more power in the Buzzrolls that I was doing so that the volume and the dynamics would remain consistent. So what you don't want to have happen is go out on an outdoor festival and do something like this. Right? So what you do want is you want to be able to play with some power and be able to play at the volume level that you're doing everything else at, and maybe even be able to elevate the band with a crescendo. And what you want to get to is something more along the lines of this. So you want to work on this that I'm about to show you. And like I said, it's not very musical, but it's going to develop that kind of power. And you want to throw the sticks into the head. And one of the things that I've learned over time is my go-to fulcrum is middle finger, thumb. But for this, playing these powerful Buzzrolls, I like to switch over to index finger, thumb, because I've noticed that sometimes I'd be throwing the sticks into the head so hard that the stick would literally just fly out of my hand. So I've modified in the last several years, and I clamp down with the index finger when it comes time to do these powerful Buzzrolls. So now I'm just gonna throw the sticks into the head. Let's do this at 60 BPM. And I'm gonna try to get as much buzz and as many bounces as I can after I do the initial throw. And if you'll notice, I'm definitely letting the hand fly off the stick, and I'm doing this, I would say on purpose, but definitely I'm aware of the fact that the back of the stick, if you're clamping onto the back of the stick and the back of the stick is not moving, the front of the stick is not going to move either. So I'm totally okay with letting the hand come off the stick, and if you'll notice with my left hand, a lot of times I'll just let the complete grip just fly off the stick. And the only contact point is my fulcrum. And that's okay with me because that gets the sound that I want. And from doing this for so many years, I can maintain the control that I want. So as long as I'm getting the sound that I want and I'm not hurting myself, then the technique is just whatever it needs to be to make sure that I'm getting the sound and I'm getting the musical expression that I want out of these Buzzrolls. Now the fifth thing that I've worked on is something that Johnny Vidakovich showed me, and when he first showed this to me, I really didn't like it because I was coming from a school of the rudimental background and trying to play these orchestral Buzzrolls, perfect orchestral Buzzrolls. So I would try to insert these buzzes into a New Orleans second line that just sounded terrible because I was going for this seamless orchestral type of thing. So Johnny heard me play like this, and he later told me he was thinking to himself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this guy? Because I was so tight and I had to loosen up a little bit. So I would come to Johnny and play things that sounded like this. Which just sounds really corny. So Johnny got me to loosen up, and he got me to understand that it was totally okay to hear the pulses, and not just okay to hear the pulses, but it was really, it could be a beautiful thing. So that's when I started getting into these ways of pulsing and accenting and doing the abbreviated crushed buzz rolls, and then allowing the different lengths of the buzz to happen, and just getting as much different expression out of all of that as I could. So Johnny showed me this little thing, and it really helped loosen me up as well. So what you do is you just play buzz rolls. Again, we're going to do this at about 60. You're playing buzzes, and you want to rotate the stick in the hand. So first, I'll rotate out, then I'll rotate in, then I'll rotate to the right, and I'll rotate to the left. And I've started to think of this almost like more of a brush thing where I'm dragging the hands across the drum. But as I'm doing it, I'm rotating the sticks in the hand, which that would not work with the brushes because you'd be flipping the brushes. But you want to do this and just think of and meditate on having no tension in your arms whatsoever. So this is to develop a loose grip and to get you out of the habit of holding onto the sticks too tight. So again, we're going to do this at 60 BPM. And when I first started doing this, and Johnny first started showing me this, I really hated it because it just sounded so sloppy and really terrible to me at the time because I was coming from such a rudimental and orchestral background. But once you can embrace that and you can be okay with getting all these different kind of sloppy buzzes, and then you learn how to control that, well, then it'll really free you up and allow you to be more expressive without having to insert these perfect little buzz rolls into what you're doing. Now that I've shown you some of the things that I've used to develop my buzz roll, I want to tell you the story of how I really kind of developed it in a practical way. And I got asked to play with a band called the New Orleans Klezmer All-Stars. And klezmer music is Eastern European Jewish folk music. And these guys were playing this music back in the early 90s, and they had Willie Green from the Neville Brothers as their drummer, and Willie was doing some Neville gigs and couldn't always make the gigs, so they held an audition, and I went in and went into this audition, and that's the first time that I met Ben Ellman, who is now our saxophone player in Galactic, and Glenn Hartman, Jonathan Freilich, and these are guys that have become good friends of mine over the years. So I would be playing in the band, and I would be playing things that sounded like a polka, where they'd be playing on the bass, boom, 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 a do-bo, do-do-do-do. And then the guitar would be unta, 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 unta. And the melodies would be da 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 da, and I'd be playing oompa, 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 oompa. And they would turn around to me on the gig and they'd say, man, don't play a polka, that's corny. I said, well, what do you want me to play then? So Glenn Hartman on accordion would turn around and say, play with me, and he'd be playing da 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 da. So I started just playing buzz rolls like that. And when I did this, they were like, yeah. So the grooves that I would come up with, and they would call this a bulgur, and this is what I would come up with to play with them. It sounded like this. So doing stuff like that in loud rock clubs and at big festivals, but on the big festivals, we were usually one of the first acts. So we're on this big stage outside, and there were not very many people in front of us. So I'm trying to fill up all this space and all that empty space in front of me with these Buzzrolls. And that's what really helped me develop these things and get the power and get the control and get all the different varying degrees and the accents. I developed all that with the New Orleans Klezmer All-Stars. So then when it came time to convert it into Galactic and other things that I was doing, I had the facility. So the moral of this story, and the reason I wanted to tell you this, is because sometimes when you take a gig that might not exactly be the music that you want to focus all of your attention on, you can sometimes learn something that's very beneficial from taking that gig. In this instance, I learned how to develop my Buzzrolls in a very powerful way and then convert them over to what I do now. And everywhere I go, all over the world, people want to know how I develop this and what I do to develop them. And they want me to demonstrate what I do with Buzzrolls. So the moral is take the gig, you might learn something, you might develop something on the gig that people ask you about in your career for the rest of your career.